Hi folks, welcome back to my channel. This is Balsamic Moon Tarot. Really happy to be here today. I am, I am doing a collective reading for the Balsamic Moon. We just entered Aries, the moon entered Aries, and these are the final moments before the new moon. This particular month, we're seeing the new moon in Aries. It's also a total solar eclipse, which is very exciting. Many people in North America will be able to experience totality. I'm sure you've heard this. If you're watching this channel, I'm sure you've been hearing about this for a while now. So I won't go into that. The point of this monthly reading that I do is twofold. I'm offering I do things differently for the Balsamic Moon phase, in which instead of offering a pick a card reading, I just do a collective reading. And this is the moon phase I was born under, so I see this as something I'm trying to do every month, to just create this practice that is totally in a spirit of, using something natural born to me or whatever, inherent to me, and trying to manifest a service that really taps into those strengths. So there's the collective reading that I offer every month, and it's always right before the new moon. And then there's also the open question aspect to this. So if you ever want to get a quick reading from me for free, you could always just wait for my posts around the time of the Balsamic Moon period, or the waning crescent moon phase every month, and you just respond in the comment with a question for yourself, and then I'll answer your question, in the second portion of this monthly reading. So yeah, so I'm just stating my intention here that this is a reading to really tap into the energy of the dark moon, okay? I've already been getting messages this morning, and I wanted to, wow, the sun and the devil, ooh, okay. We are dealing with some potent energies here. So I wanted to get started right away because, doing a reading is very energy intensive, and I usually read for myself in the first thing in the morning, but today I just felt like, let me get into this reading, this collective reading first, because I want to make sure, if I have to exhaust my energy, I want to make sure this reading is done at least. But I've been getting a number of messages already. So first of all, so the first message I got was about grinds in your coffee, okay? Interesting, because the sun, coffee is a morning routine, and coffee is a routine that many people use to greet the sun, to have in their mornings, to start their day. And I was also thinking about how coffee is probably the most ritualistic thing in many people's lives right now. It's not a religious ritual, but it is something ritualistic in that many of us approach that morning coffee with a lot of, certainly with a lot of emotions, just craving coffee, or being really excited to have coffee, loving the smell of the smell of your coffee brewing. And then also some people are very particular. They need to use a certain kind of coffee. They like particular grinds or method of making it, brewing it, whatever. So you understand my point is that there's a lot of attention and a sense of control over this process, which makes it ritualistic also, because it's repetitive. You do this every day or almost every day, and it's something that structures your experience of your life, okay? So it's like a touch point. And so I got this message, grinds in your coffee. And this this is just like a theme in the past couple days for me. Somebody had complained in my life about grinds in their coffee, and so they couldn't drink their coffee because there are grinds in it. And another person commented that, you know, you could say that it's Turkish coffee, which is like another, it's a form of brewing, right, where the grinds are intentionally left in the liquid and then I guess filtered out. But actually, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if they filtered out. But the point is that what was considered wrong to one person was considered totally fine and probably even correct to a second person. So grinds in your coffee, what this phrase means is that collectively, right, many of us are in a phase of experimentation in our lives. We are experimenting with a new way of living, or with a new belief system, or with a new practice. I mean, this can be applied in so many different ways, but I do think it's talking about experimentations that are really trying to transform your life, trying to transform your experience of life. And for these first two cards to show up, the Sun and the Devil, this is very interesting because this is also talking about ego, right? Ego and control, the controlling nature of the ego. So the message I got before I even pulled these cards was about, if you are a spiritual seeker or a soul seeker, you know, whatever term you want to use, but if you're someone who's seeking and experimenting on that front, right? You're seeking truth and you're experimenting, you're trying to apply what you're learning. It's important to remember that being a seeker means you will be wrong. You will be guaranteed to be wrong at some point about something, right? So are we remembering to be humble enough that when something conflicts with our current bias, are we humble enough to incorporate that? Are we humble enough to examine that and respond to that, right? And that talks about the ego. It talks about how our ego needs to roll with the punches, okay? We need to be comfortable with being wrong. We need to be comfortable with failure at times. And again, even the words we use are already so loaded. You know, failure, how failure is attributed to some inherently negative, weak quality. And failure can be viewed at so differently. Again, experimentation, right? Failure can be viewed at as the only way to succeed, because the only way to succeed is to actually test what you're doing, right? No one is succeeding just because they're thinking they're perfect, or they're thinking they're great at something, or they're thinking that they're a master, although they may delude themselves that. Any success in this life, any success is a result of failure, right? It's a result of trying and attempting and then taking feedback from what you're trying. Now, I know not what I'm saying is not anything like novel here. I'm sure, you know, there are many people out there who are talking about this in a much more eloquent way, but I think the message I was getting about grinds in your coffee, right? The grinds in your coffee. Is there a way in which you are trying something new in your life, or you've been practicing something in your life? Is there a way in which you've become a bit too rigid, and maybe even too dogmatic about it, right? Because just knowing that there's a completely valid opposition to that will open you up to even more expansive. It'll just open you up. It'll expand your consciousness so that you can actually incorporate new material, new ideas, new practices. So what I'm trying to say is that back to my earlier example, let's say person A receives a cup of coffee and they notice grinds in it and they complain, oh, there are grinds in my coffee. Person B then explains that, this is Turkish coffee. There's supposed to be grinds in the coffee, just as an example, right? And then person A has an epiphany, a mini epiphany. It's like, oh, there's other ways of making coffee, and grinds is not, having grinds in the coffee is not actually it's not universally a faux pas, or it's not universally considered incorrect. So now this person knows a different way of brewing coffee, right? It's so that was the first message. It's that we are all experimenting. None of us are perfect. None of us are masters at everything, or I would say none of us are masters at even a single thing, because I feel like life on this planet and on this earth is all about remaining foolish on some level. It's about remaining innocent in that level of, always having a purity, a pure consciousness, a pure consciousness in the way you approach life, even when you are beset with the toughest tragedies, the deepest tragedies and the toughest outcomes. Even when you encounter that, to retain a certain purity keeps you open to learning and open to curiosity and such and such. So the sun, instead of being an ego that imprisons you in a controlling mindset and a need for control and a need for being supreme or superior, instead the sun can represent just pure joy and pure enjoyment of life and bliss and centeredness, having a center in which you radiate your being out from the inner perfection to the outer perfection. I would say there's not even a dichotomy between imperfect and perfect in that sense. It's like, it's simply sunlight. It's simply the sun. It's simply that force of energy that is undiminishing and brings life, brings consciousness and joy to everything you do. So wow, that is the first message, and it's quite that's a very big message, and it can take a while to unpack and process that, but that's why I like doing these monthly readings, because it does give me a chance to instead of trying to read for someone or people who have been drawn to a particular card, I'm just reading all the energies that are coming through, all the messages that are coming through, and I'm trying to transmit as much as I can. And there's the King of Wands. I think that's an affirmation that I'm doing okay so far. Okay, wow, that's awesome. Let's see, where do I even start right now? I guess I just start with some cards. I think that was just the first message of this reading. But I don't want this video to be too long. I want it to be maybe in the 20 to 30 minute range. So I'm just going to get started and get right into it. What are the other messages for the collective at this time? What is that we need to know? Wow, dangerous depths. Water above, water below. Okay. That is quite... You know what? I can't help but think of the hurricane season. Apparently, this is going to be an incredible hurricane. I mean, every year it's like what I feel like even the scientists are always confused, right? So, from what we know currently, the hurricane season this year is going to be very intense. A lot of hurricanes will be spawned in this hurricane season. Initiation, okay. And involution. What is the message for the collective? Let me cut this deck and I'll select 2 cards. This is the 4 of Cups and the World card, and now the Magician card. Wow. We have the 4 of Cups here. It says turning in. We have the 4 of Cups under this dangerous depths card, which is, you know, very resonant. And then we also have the initiation. These two cards really resonate with the Magician card and the World. It's like the world at your fingertips, right? Okay, so this is a very interesting message. The main message is about what you turn your attention to and the importance of returning attention to your center and to your breath, staying grounded in the breath. So if you meditate or if you have any breathing practices, it's key right now to incorporate those practices into your life, even just once a day. But I do think there is a word of caution here about crisis points and how, you know, our inner peace can be disturbed when we don't have a strengthened like filter for processing not just information but even energy, for lack of a better word. It's so what I'm trying to say is that especially when you're doing something that is experimental for you, or you are incorporating new knowledge, or certainly practicing anything that can be considered occultist or magical, it's, you know, it all starts with being grounded. And I think that what's important is to not be afraid of challenge and difficulty and even crisis, because crisis is going to happen in all of our lives. We're all going to encounter a crisis at some point. And I would say if you're not experiencing a crisis, if you don't ever experience a personal crisis in your life, then that would be more troubling, because there's just so much to navigate in this world, right? This world is so complex, and there's a lot of troublesome, problematic realities that we have to experience. And so crisis is not something we should shy away from. On the other hand, we also don't want to invite crisis into our lives. This is unnecessary suffering, and we don't need to invite, by invite I mean we don't need to be receptive to that, either unconsciously or consciously. Okay, so that's like the word of caution here, is that remaining grounded, remaining centered, in the simplest way, like focusing on the breath, which is also breathing exercises are very powerful for managing anxiety as well. But I would say, if you're constantly anxious, if you're constantly experiencing panic, there's help for that. There are professional therapists, there are professionals who can, help treat that on psychological terms. Okay, and so there's really an importance here of, again, that humility, right? If we are learning something new, are we also humble enough to recognize and respond to feedback, all the feedback we're getting about it? Because cognitive bias, right? When you want to believe that something is working, you'll ignore a lot of signs and flags. When you want to believe that a relationship is working, you'll also ignore a lot of signs and red flags, right? That it's not the best healthy relationship for you. So this should be applied in all aspects of your life. So I do think collectively we're just being kind of put on notice that now is a good time to do something protective to your psyche, and again, I don't mean that in some kind of tinfoil conspiracy way. I mean that in simply, the tried and true methods, right? Like stress management, you know, go for a walk every single day. Take 30 minutes and just walk. Walk briskly, right? Walk enough so that your heart rate rises and you really like feel your blood flowing through your body. Okay, that does wonders for stress management. Breathing exercises. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to do this, you know, on the hour, right? You don't have to do this constantly. You only need to do this once or twice a day to really feel the benefits of a deep breathing meditation or a deep, you know, any kind of deep breathing exercises. Now, again, this is only if it works for you, right? So, turning in this Four of Cups card is talking about how you are the source of truth in your life, and what you encounter, information you encounter, you know, even just your own intuition, right? It should be checked with your inner kind of your inner BS radar, right? So it's about cultivating the centeredness and the groundedness so that you can more accurately parse all the information you're receiving, all the knowledge you're parsing, right? So you can more accurately parse that and receive what is relevant for you, you know, not relevant to me, what is relevant to you, because we are all so different from each other, and we all need to be wary of any person or entity has a platform and has that influence, you know, that social influence to you know, stoke the less than positive things about us in general. Okay, I feel like I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but it's really simple. It's at the end of the day, you can only rely on the information that consistently tracks, okay? That tracks well over time. So, you know, again, let's say it's a health issue and you've incorporated in your diet. It could be beneficial to your health in the short term, but is it beneficial to your health in the long term, right? So it's not necessarily that this thing is, that what you're doing is wrong because it's not beneficial to you in the long term. It's just saying that everything deserves to be reevaluated from time to time. It just means that nothing is so true. You know, we can't hold everything as objective truths that apply for the rest of our lives. Like, we evolve, the world evolves, or the world changes, our circumstances change, and being centered is therefore not about holding on to something so tightly with this grip that it's rigid and therefore dogmatic, right? Being centered is about having both the openness to receive new information and process that and parse that, but also that groundedness that you trust, you know, you're going to be the judge of this new information. You're not going to put that power of discernment and judgment on anyone or anything else. You're not going to externalize that. So again, it's about, you know, turning in, and especially emotionally, right? Especially with our feelings, you know, being conscious of whatever we're experiencing in our day-to-day life that tends to have an influence on our feelings, because that can be subconscious. You know, sometimes I mean, here's a great example. You know, you can go to a workplace every day And for the most part, it's a comfortable workplace and you really don't have any complaints. But subconsciously, there could be things about the job that are impacting you and are making you feel a certain way, like feel stressed or feel negative or feel unsafe, but it's just below the level of consciousness. It's not super discernible for you. And so that's why, you know, that's why I'm saying, like, over time you can, you know, you should assess things that have been fine in the short term, but over time they may not be fine. And so that job may have taken its toll on your health without you really being aware of it day to day. You know, maybe your stress levels have been rising because of that job. And, you know, you just were minimizing it because you're thinking, oh, but it's a good job, it's comfortable. Like, I really don't want to leave the job. But then, you know, going deeper into the discomfort that you've been feeling, but just sort of minimizing, right? Going deeper into that, turning in and really letting those feelings come through instead of suppressing them, right? So this is what I mean about being centered. It's about honoring the fact that you are constantly, as an individual, you are constantly in a state of flow. You're constantly receiving new information. You're constantly processing feelings. You're constantly attuning to your environment, right? You're not this static object, and you're certainly not a lab experiment that just like deals with everything in a silo, right? In an isolated environment. You are an individual in the world. And so that self-awareness comes from, you know, it starts from within, and it starts from that personal integrity, that you will honor your experiences, you will honor your feelings, you will honor your internal life, you know, like, so that's just that I think that's all I should say on this, because, you know, I mean, people have written books about this, right? I mean, religions are based on religious beliefs, like explore this so much about, you know, what does that mean to have integrity. So I'm not going to expand on this much more, but I do think that is a big part of the message today, is, you know, to prioritize that, right? As individuals, we need to prioritize this. The promise here in the cards, what the cards are showing, is really amazing, though, because it's showing the world and the magician. It's showing we are the world and existence. It's talking about how you know, we are manifest. We all co-create. We are collectively manifesting our world, and that is, you know, that's negative and positive in the most simplest terms, right? So to be centered means you also have an opportunity to cultivate joy and to co-create joy in the world. Not just joy, but awareness, you know, universal love. Those that must be cultivated. We can't let our guard down and just, you know, forget about all that. So I do think some of us may be having trouble, you know, having crisis of faith, or personal crises, in that we're, again, dangerous steps, right? We're unsure, uncertain about what our spiritual beliefs are doing for us, like, you know, losing faith or questioning. I mean, these are all important to do, but there's also an element there of, do you start feeling disempowered? Do you start feeling like you don't have any power to change things? Do you start feeling like, you know, you are that you don't have any creative power, right? So the cards are showing that it's key here with the existence card. It's key to remember that you're a soul experiencing this life on earth. You are a special divine being, and, you know, despite the world presenting all the challenges and humbling us, you know, every single day, right? Humbling us about our limitations. Maybe not just despite that, but because of that, it's important to cultivate that inner peace, and it's important to cultivate your own sense of magic. The Magician card being depicted with this existence card. Existence itself is magical, okay? So again, it can be as simple as returning to the breath, returning to a meditative practice or a contemplative practice. Alternatively, it can be as simple as a walking meditation. You know, maybe you need physical activity rather than being sedentary. Maybe it's physical activity, it's exercise that's going to get you centered again. But whatever works for you, that would be the goal, is to cultivate that inner peace and to pull yourselves from any dangerous depths in which your emotions or your fears or any other concerns are overwhelming you, right? To pull yourself back from that sense of overwhelm and to recenter yourself about what is true, what is truly in your power. Because we can forget that. We can forget that there's a lot in our power. We have the power to respond. Every single day we have the power to respond to life. We have the power to try something new. We have the power to try to improve a situation in our lives that's been causing us to suffer, okay? Even in the smallest of ways. So I meant to stop the message and then I just continued it. But let me clear the cards, let me clear the air, and then I'll pull a few more cards to see what else we can learn today. But yes, this, there's a lot of talk about the solar eclipse, and it's important to remember eclipses happen every year. Eight of Pentacles, ordinariness. Yes, okay, I'm going to keep this card out because that's a beautiful message, ordinariness, right? It's the ordinary life that is magical and that we easily forget. And, this speaks back to humility, right? Ordinariness. We see somebody here who's collecting flowers. They're collecting wildflowers in a field, in a beautiful path, in a meadow with trees. There's like a walking path here. I hope you can see that clearly. But this is also talking about seasons, right? Appreciating seasons. And seasons are a reminder that we are experiencing life on a planet, life on Earth, okay? When I say grounded, I mean quite literally. We are Earthlings, okay? We are not beings from other planets, because that is proven every single day that we are on Earth here. Now, do we get messages from other planets? I really don't know. I don't know. Because for me, even if that was the case, it would still be less important than the fact that we are here on Earth. And so, Eight of Pentacles here with ordinariness, this is showing how every day is a mastery lesson in itself. Every day is a chance to master the ordinary, okay? Every day is a chance to make the ordinary extraordinary. How can you tap into the mundane aspects of your life and experience it with a sense of awe? Because it truly is awesome, right? Just to be alive and to witness things firsthand and to witness this world and to know other people, to have relationships, even just in passing, right? Even just conversations with strangers and, tuning into other human beings, other non-human beings, tuning into the experiences of animals and plant life. Like, there's so much rich experience in being an earthling. And, I do think this is an important message with this balsamic moon, is that because the balsamic moon was in Pisces, where the moon is now in Aries, but, again, the moon is leading up to this new moon, right? So what this what the energies are doing and leading up to a new moon is it's synthesizing everything we've learned from this previous lunar cycle. It's synthesizing the feelings and it's distilling all this wisdom into this one moment. And then we will have a reset with the new moon, and that new moon will offer us an opportunity to start the next cycle with pure intentions. So what this message is telling me is that there's so much richness to life. There's so many opportunities to enrich your life in even the simplest of ways. And how can we experience gratitude or awe for what we experienced this last lunar cycle? Maybe this is a time to look back and just appreciate what you achieved, you know, on a mundane level. Maybe you did your taxes. Maybe you maybe you cooked for a friend, you know, maybe you cooked for your family and that went well. You know, it's something like that. Maybe you learned something new about gardening. If you're plant parent, maybe you got better at gardening. Maybe you improved your commute time. If you have to commute to work, maybe you figured out a way to do your commute that saves you time or saves you stress, you know? So think back on this past month and just give yourself credit for something that you did that can appear absolutely ordinary to the outside world, but to you, you know it's not ordinary. To you, you know that it is it is important, it's special, it's something that really did bring meaning to your life. Okay, so again, something that can be as simple as a family dinner can actually be the most important thing, you know, that happened this month. So yeah, that's a really beautiful message. I love that. I'm going to just pull some more cards and I'll wrap this up. I'm curious what other messages we can share, we can find out before we wrap this up. We have the Five of Cups there and the Three of Pentacles and the Page of Pentacles. Yes, a lot of Pentacles and the Ace of Pentacles. Okay. Is there one card that would like to come out from this deck? Oh, this card. Okay. Oh, wow. This is actually upside down. I didn't know that. Okay, great. So we have the links. Very cool. I'm gonna... we have the links. We have what I think is an otter. Surrender to receive. Okay, and what is the message for the collective from this deck, please? Wow, we have emptiness, which is a really interesting, very interesting illustration here, because this is reflecting the sky. Like there seems to be a hole in the ground, which could be, you know, it could be like a lake, but it's reflecting the clouds in the sky. So I think this talks about, you know, contemplation and you know, having moments of solitude and letting your mind just settling down the monkey mind, right? And allowing yourself to just be a witness, just bear witness to all the feelings and thoughts that have been swirling inside, within you and around you, and just letting that all, just bringing awareness to it, not trying to direct it, not trying to change it, not being judgmental of it, just letting it be. And Again, bearing witness. I'm taking a deep breath now because those moments are so important, you know, and it's so easy to lose track. So easy to lose track of our priorities, and to minimize our needs. But we need this, right? Many of us really need, we really need that solitude or that space to just do that, to just bring awareness, to bear witness to what we're experiencing. Let me go ahead and get a couple more cards, and then I'm going to give the final message here. The Page of Wands. I love that candle is surrounded by 4-leaf clover, as well as, you know, some kind of flower. Again, the theme of flowers showing up. Also springtime. Page of Wands, the sign of Aries. Page of Pentacles. Wow. Very cool. So we have page energy, which is like, which is lovely. It's about, you know, again, freshness, newness, novelty, right? It's about being like limber because you're open and you're receptive and you're excited. You have enthusiasm for what you're doing. So I think these pages are here to be helpful to us, to remind us like there are exciting things going on around us, and we can just step back a bit and, you know, let our egos relinquish control, and, you know, approach things with some humility, approach our lives with some humility, so that we are more receptive to learning and applying new ideas. Okay, now I wanted to look into the links card. Yes, let me do that first, and then I will talk about this some more. Sorry, you're just gonna have to hear me page through this. Oh, there it is. So the balanced energy of the links is discerning, intuitive, independent. To bring into balance, keep your own counsel until you know the time is right to share. Wow, yeah, okay. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. This is exactly what I've been saying. Links calls upon you to hold sacred silence, at least for the time being. There is great power in keeping your own counsel when appropriate. Silence is particularly wise when applied to a new project, relationship, or vision that still lives in the gestational or liminal realms. So that's the page energy. This is because sacred silence is a womb where dreams and desires may come into material form. Go with links into meditation, where the light of possibility will allow your dreams to unfurl. Trust that you will know when the time is right to speak. Have faith you'll understand exactly whom to share it with. So this is really cool because it's talking again to that magician card. So it's which was existence, right? It's talking about how being centered and turning in, which was the Four of Cups we saw earlier, turning in is key to manifesting. It's key to the creative process. We must balance ourselves by turning within and tuning out external inputs, if you will, you know, as general as that is. So yeah, and here's the surrender to receive, right? So this is also about letting the mind come to rest in that meditative process, letting go of the tension, right? Putting ourselves back into that meditative state where we're releasing that tension. I'm not going to say much more because I've already said so much, and the whole point of this message is that you shouldn't listen to me. You should just go and find out for yourself. Here's the Page of Pentacles twice. Okay, so very important message there. Again, with pages, there's something new going on in your life. There's an experimental situation in your life right now. And that is so important. It's key to be an experimenter. It's key to be open to new knowledge, new information, new ways of doing things, new behaviors. It's very important that we remain curious about that. We remain open to trying new things. So this is a time where you've tried new things, and now you need to well, by you I mean we, right? We need to like return to the self. We need to return to the contemplative self that can bear witness to everything as a whole, right? To let everything kind of gel and become cohesive from within. And that's the wisdom that will then inform our our steps going forward. It will inform what we try differently, if we do anything differently at all. But this is about learning in a way that's much deeper than just, oh, you did that wrong. There's no shame in this. This is about learning from a deeper spiritual level, learning as remember the sun card, learning as souls, right? Learning as individual consciousness here on this planet. So we have the Five of Cups, the Three of Pentacles, and the Ace of Pentacles as well. I feel like all the Pentacles cards are really here to balance out this Five of Cups cards. There's something that we might be holding on to that's sorrowful, that's grief, and we may need to grieve something, even something minor, so-called minor, something inconsequential. This is how we dismiss our feelings. We tell ourselves, oh, that's not a big deal, and I need to get over this. Well, guess what? If you're still thinking about it, if you're still bothered by it, then it is important. It's important to look at what's going on. Look at the bigger picture, not just to wallow in the sadness, but also to take a step back and look at how does this fit into everything I'm doing? What is contributing to this, and what improves this on just based on evidence, right? So those Pentacles cards, the Three of Pentacles, the Page of Pentacles, the Ace of Pentacles, okay? There's so much opportunity here to learn, and to learn skills, okay? To learn skills that actually improve our long-term success. So remember when I was talking about short-term versus long-term, maybe something works in the short term, but if it's not working into the long term, we always have to be willing to evaluate that. That's what this evaluation is all about right now. It's about, seeing if there's anything that is still painful to us, and giving ourselves the chance to examine that, right? Examine it from a constructive point of view, not just the kind of egotistic, not from the pain body, right? That's a term people use, like the pain body, but to take a step back and try to examine this from a more holistic way. Has this grief been serving me in a way that I was unconscious of, and that's why I can't let this go. That's why I still feel this grief, despite all this time or all these other great things that have happened. Maybe that's what it is. It's like holding on to that sadness because it's actually serving you in a certain way, unconsciously, right? So again, those are just ideas I'm throwing out, but there's so much here, right? There's so much here that I think I'm really excited for us. I'm really excited for the turning points that we're all going through, and just the willingness that I think many of us in the collective, many of us are willing, no matter how old we are, no matter how many years we have under our belts, a lot of us are willing to try something different, and a lot of us are willing to be wrong. We're willing to be wrong. We're willing to learn from mistakes. okay? We're willing to learn from that feedback that's showing us that what may have seemed correct and right and perfect, you know, back then, it doesn't work now. It's not the right approach now, or it's not an effective approach now, right? So I think I've talked long enough. That is the message. I'll pull one more card, and that will just be a closing piece of advice, please, for the collective. And I would like to use the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which is not at all ordinary, but because it's the most commonly used, it can be mistaken for being ordinary. But, you know, it's all about going back to our roots as tarot readers, right? Let's pull a card from this deck. We have the Three of Wands. Okay, wonderful. So as far as advice goes, the advice for the collective, right? It is definitely about that perspective. And so I think finding that quiet time, having that solitude, having that contemplation is going to offer a big picture perspective. It's going to be very exciting. It's going to help us see things in a new light that will make us excited for the changes coming, okay? It'll make us so much more motivated to have this new chapter in our life, whatever that is, okay? So that's awesome. I'm really excited about this. Thank you so much. If you've watched this whole video, thank you so much for being here. Your energy is really appreciated. And, you know, if you're not yet a subscriber, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel so that you can be notified every time I post a new video. Thank you so much. Take care, y'all.